And welcome to the Deuce Podcast. I'm Brad.
And I'm Jeremy.
Jeremy, we are doing 152, episode 152.
Yes.
Can you believe it?
I really can't. Well, I mean, I guess I kind of can since we
I
just
guess
did
I always ask you that
151.
question. I go, can you believe it? But you should, because I ask you that question all the time.
Well, I can believe it. We've been, hovering around the 150 range now for a few. So
We're getting old. We're getting old.
I can believe it.
I can believe it. All right, should I tell everyone what we're doing?
Yes, you should.
We're doing the 2003 film It Runs in the Family, starring Rory Culkin, Michael Douglas, Kurt Douglas, and Cameron Douglas. Is that correct?
Christian Douglas.
Yeah, Cameron Douglas, Michael Douglas, Kurt Douglas.
No,
we're not doing that. That It Runs in the Family?
Like 2003.
Oh, no, we're not doing that. It Runs in the Family. I'm sorry.
No, wrong one.
Wrong Culkin. Wrong Culkin, too.
Wrong Culkin.
Rory Culkin was in that movie. We were actually
I was really confused. I was like,
I know.
No, not Rory.
I told you I had a good one. 1994's comedy film My Summer Story, also known in theaters as It Runs in the Family, is the sequel to A Christmas Story.
Yes.
This is the true sequel to A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Lots of people don't know that there's a sequel to A Christmas Story.
Well, and it's weird. The whole thing is kind of contentious. So, I think we should talk about that.
That's why I said
too.
it's the 2003 movie. It Runs in the Family, because I wanted to confuse you. But we're about ready to confuse our audience.
When you said 2003, I was like, God, that movie does not feel like it's from 2003. So I was checking that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When you said Culkin, I was like, no, Christian Culkin.
First of all, that you know that movie. But it's just like, it was a movie that they were like, let's get all the Douglases together and do a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Anyway, this is the Bob Clark sequel to A Christmas Story. Bob Clark directed A Christmas Story. And that movie was what, 1980 something? I don't know, 1984, whatever it was. Yeah. 10 years later, we have a sequel. Obviously, it's a continuous of that story, so all the actors are too old to play their respective characters.
Right.
So the
first one was 83. It was shot.
It was 83, 84. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. So it's about 10, 11 years. So we got a recast. And I think this is my personal opinion. I like this cast better.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, it's, there are things about both casts that I think are pretty good. Because
you have Charles Grodin, who is Kojak the Night Stalker.
Plays Gavin.
You always say Gavin McLeod.
I know I do. I stopped myself.
But I want to say Gavin
Darren
Darren
McGavin.
Darren McGavin. Is it Dermot Mulroney or Romy McDermott?
Darren McGavin.
Yes.
God, why do I always do that?
He's playing the father figure, and then you got what's her face from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I can't think of her name. She played the mother in A Christmas Story.
Yeah, Melinda Dillon.
Melinda Dillon, and then we have Mary Steenburgen in this movie. This is the second movie that Grodin and Mary Steenburgen were in together. The first one was Clifford.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Shelby, my sister Shelby's favorite movie.
Oh my God!
She'll tell you it's something else, but it's really Clifford.
Really Clifford.
Yeah, we love Clifford.
If it was really Clifford, I would tell somebody something else too. You and I have different opinions about that movie.
About Clifford?
Yeah,
it's an awful movie. I admit it's an awful movie.
Oh man,
but it's an awful movie to have fun with.
I could never get.
Death to Smoochie. It is, I guess. That's what that's what Clifford is kind of. It's got that dark comedy.
Well, yeah, but
like Cable Guy kind of thing.
Terrible.
Do we have a plot synopsis to this movie?
We do.
We're all over the place.
So as far as plot synopses go, it's now summer in the Parker family, and the usual number of events is happening in their separate lives. Ralphie is searching for the perfect top to use to beat the school bully. The old man is in battle with their hillbilly neighbors, the Bumpuses, while eagerly awaiting the discovery of the perfect fishing spot. And Mother is attempting to collect all of the pieces of glass china set at a local movie theater.
Mm-hmm. We meant to say Ralphie is played by Kieran Culkin.
Yes.
And his brother is played
Christian
by...
Culkin.
The only movie that Culkin did
Yeah,
is
and
Christian Culkin.
that's fair, because that kid, he was really kind of the bottom of the Culkin barrel, unfortunately.
Yes. Actually, Macaulay Culkin did an article where he ranked all the Culkin brothers.
He did really?
And Christian was number 6.
Out of...
And Macaulay was number 5.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Kieran was number 2.
What?
Rory was number 1.
Rory was 1?
Yeah, Rory was number 1.
I guess.
Okay,
I think
whatever.
Kieran Culkin is number 1.
That's my opinion, too. The tagline for this movie is, in A Christmas Story, Ralph raised the roof. This summer, the whole family is bringing down the house.
Boo!
Mm-hmm.
That's a really bad tagline.
That is a really bad tagline. I had to say that.
Yeah, that's fair.
This movie is very interesting. It, again, is written by Gene Shepard, who wrote the first one. And also...
It goes by Shep, by the way.
It goes by Shep. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I found that out. I never heard that before until I was reading a little bit more about him today. But yeah,
but he narrates this as well as the first one as well. So yeah.
So and here's kind of where the contentiousness comes in about what's the true sequel to all of this. So after The Christmas Story came out, PBS, American Playhouse, they did a couple of television adaptations. It was The Star-Crossed Romance of Josephine Kosnowski and Ollie Hopnoodle's Haven of Bliss. That were both
great titles.
Because Gene Shepard does a collection of short stories of anything that's kind of got those folksy a short story about somebody and maybe some interconnectedness. But he does those short stories. And A Christmas Story
is like the Mel Beverly Cleary. Can we just say, kind of like Super Fudge?
Yeah. Or like Louis Sacker.
Yeah.
The Sideways School stuff. Yeah.
The Sideways School
You never heard of Louis Sacker?
No.
The Tales of Sideways School or whatever it's called?
Are you talking about Shel Silverstein where the sidewalk ends?
No, Louis Sacker.
What about Shel Silverstein?
Oh, sure. Why not? You get the gist.
No, I don't get the gist. I don't know who that is.
I loved Louis Sacker stories when I was the Sideways School was great.
Sure.
Where they each have an ice cream.
I actually know that now, and it's coming back to my head. I got you.
Where they each have an ice cream that's based off of them flavor wise, and they don't taste anything when they eat it because it's their own taste.
No.
No? Doesn't ring a bell?
No, I'm talking about the collective poems of Shel Silverstein.
Sure.
I'm eaten by a boa constrictor.
I know what who Shel Silverstein is.
Okay, I was just checking.
Yeah.
There's no ice cream though, where they're looking.
No, that's Louis Sacker.
It's already off the rails, and we haven't even talked about the movie.
Anyway, but Gene Shepard does a lot of these short stories, and
right?
so
It's folksy,
right?
In a way of
and if you look at
what was that one guy?
Garrison Keillor.
Yeah, Garrison Keillor. Yeah, I was gonna say kind of like that.
He's like Indiana's Garrison Keillor.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Only probably has an interesting face, unlike Garrison Keillor. Well, Garrison Keillor has an interesting face.
Yeah. Too. Yeah. He looks like some sort of a
alien
terrier dog thing with a toupee.
You will not disgrace Garrison Keillor. No.
I like pie with kids.
Yeah, you will. Just disgrace him. It's fine.
No. So Gene Shepard, who, by the way, had a show called Shepherd's Pie, where he just tells short stories that you can find on YouTube.
But it really was Shepherd's Pie. You're not making that up.
Shepherd's Pie,
like the ice cream thing that you're making up, where they're licking their own ice cream.
The ice cream thing is not made up.
Made up.
It is not made up.
Okay, Great Space Coaster.
You leave the Great Space Coaster out of this. It is real. And I'm sorry that you didn't get to enjoy that in Nebraska.
Oh, I'm very grateful we didn't get to watch that in Nebraska.
What?
Come on. I'm too busy watching Zoobly Zoo to care.
This is over. This show is done.
Show is done.
Show is done.
52. After all the arguments we've had, it took this movie to do it. We are not talking about this movie. But we will.
We will. So anyway, he does a bunch of short stories, and you can kind of see that thread in
in this, because
Christmas Story.
The Christmas Story is a bunch of like small stories.
Yeah, but instead of telling them
together,
like each of the stories by themselves, they interlink to them to make one longer narrative.
So is this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this one, but I think this one is almost more obvious.
More obvious that it's doing it, or
more obvious that it's like,
or disjointed.
Not that it's not disjointed. It's just, to me, this one is more obvious that, because the other one was almost like, hey, it's just over the Christmas season.
Right. It's more because it has that one single theme of Christmas that it's easier to get behind that.
Right.
As far as a cohesive thing.
Yes.
Where I think this is more a little underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where it could be, like, because it's supposed to be like summer.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily like, you don't get like the feel that all these stories are about summer.
Right.
As opposed to all the stories being about Christmas or, in that time, of Christmas.
Yeah.
This isn't like, like Mary Steenburgen's, is but isn't about summer. We'll get to it though.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying.
But yeah. And so in any case, so PBS was like, well, hey, with American Playhouse, we can do some movies based on your short stories.
Okay.
And so he had these short stories that were more contained to like expansions of one story. So like Cross Romance of Josephine Kosnowski and Ollie Hopnoodle's Haven of Bliss. Like, some people consider those sequels because they were based off of his stories set in that universe.
And it has that Thurber-ness to it.
Yeah, and it's almost
folksy.
Yes, and it's almost like, I would almost put those as like a spin-off kind of thing. It has similar characters, but it almost is dealing with whole other subjects from my understanding of it.
This is more of the family.
And this is the first one. But there was another one. I think it was like The Phantom of the Open Hearth, The Great American 4th of July, and Other Disasters that he also made for PBS.
Okay.
But this one is the first one that was like the movie studio saying, we are going to make a sequel. So the other one was PBS picked it up. So like those are almost just set in the same universe. This is actually the studio saying, like, focused on it, saying, let's make a sequel to
These are the stories from In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. Which, by the way, is another great title. I mean, the guy comes up with great titles.
Yeah, he does.
That's why I'm like, it's kind of a bummer that it's like, we're going to call it a Christmas story, and we're going to call this a summer story.
Yeah.
This wasn't initially called, they wanted it to be called a summer story, but then the studio didn't, they wanted to disassociate it from, which is dumb.
Well,
because you do want to kind of have that cash cow.
But at the time, I'm not sure it was really that. I mean, we hadn't gotten to the point where they played it 24 hours on TNT.
That's true too. It
and
still
so
wasn't...
like it was kind of a cult thing, and so I think they wanted people to be able to find it, but also not necessarily completely tie it to it.
And this failed. I mean, we're talking 15 million, and it only made 70,000.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not.
It did so badly, but then they thought, well, but Christmas Story did really better, well on
TBS.
It did real well like on television and like in home media. And so after naming it, It Runs in the Family, then they went, well, shit, maybe we should have named it My Summer Story.
Duh.
So on home media, they changed the name back to My Summer Story so that to try to then get as much out of it as they could.
So if people are going to look for this, you can look under it for My Summer Story, or look under it for It Runs in the Family, not the Douglas family.
Right. And if it actually helps...
But the Shepherd.
But
we found it on YouTube.
Right, we did.
Because we couldn't find it streaming anywhere, so you can watch it.
But it does the whole movie on YouTube. And if you need help finding what the cover of the box looks like, it's just a house with a straitjacket on it.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Are they trying to like...
And it doesn't even look like their family either. It's so weird.
Because is this before Clifford? Or not Clifford, Beethoven, or is this after Beethoven?
Oh, this is definitely before Beethoven.
This has to be
94. It has to be before Beethoven.
Beethoven, right?
I think so.
So I think maybe later on they were trying to capture on Grodin's Beethoven fame or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Because at first, like,
oh no, Beethoven was 92.
Okay, so they really were. I think
Yeah.
they really were trying to kind of be all like, "Hey, you know this guy?
Yeah.
He's from the Beethoven movies." And I'm like,
He was kind of getting that second breath of
yeah. And I love Charles Grodin. You know I do.
Yes, I do.
And we wanted to do this because obviously he passed away. What, about a month ago? Is that when he passed away?
Yeah.
And this popped up, and I was like, let's do this because this is a sequel. And at first, I didn't even know this had a sequel.
Well, I knew that.
I'm like grateful.
I heard about this.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard about this, and I thought it was going to be on TV one day, and thought
really?
I would watch it.
Okay.
But it wasn't. It was. They did like AMC had like a block of Christmas movies, and they showed A Christmas Story and then A Christmas Story 2.
Ugh, whatever.
And I was like, "What is this now?" And it was.
That's the Daniel Stern.
So they tried making, because I don't think whatever studio greenlit this didn't know there was a movie that was supposed to be a sequel.
I don't think they knew either because
Yeah.
we didn't know. I mean, I didn't know until recently.
And so, like, I was just like, this wasn't what I heard about. Yeah. And so this movie came out in 2012. Now, this, of course, it's not based on Gene Shepard's books at all.
This Christmas Story 2.
Because the original ones were just contained short stories.
Right.
This is like, Summer Story is based on his other stories in the same town and everything like that. His own experiences. This is just made up stuff that has nothing to do with his experiences. It's just kind of a continuation off the first one.
Okay.
And it's the only one that he has not been involved with. Like every other one of his things, they actually had him narrate. So he at least is narrating all of his own stuff.
Yeah. Now, it's kind of hard to talk about this movie because there's a lot of, like we said, different short stories going on in this movie. You got Ralphie and his finding the perfect top to and giggle to
Aren't we all?
the new bully, because Scott Fargus is not in this. Obviously, it's a different bully who's winning and he wants to beat him. So we got that story going on. We got the mob story with Dish Night.
Yes, which I think is fucking hilarious.
I think it's great. And you got Charles Grodin's story with the fighting of the neighbors.
Yeah.
And then the fishing going on kind of simultaneously. You got him kind of with this kind of story about becoming a man.
Yeah.
Like Ralphie being initiated into
his story,
fishing.
It's basically 4 stories.
Yeah.
It's the mom's story, Ralphie's story, the dad's story of him versus the Bupkises, and then Ralphie and his dad's story about growing up.
Well, and then there's the kind of side story of the tax auditor coming in.
Yeah. And I think that
that's part of her story, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of part of that too. But it's weird because this movie also touches on, I never got, like, in A Christmas Story, I didn't really get there wasn't like a serious piece of it, I didn't think. This movie actually has a moment in it that, like, when Gene Shepard talks about it, like, everything else he talks about, like he does in A Christmas Story.
Can I guess what you're... Go ahead.
Yeah, it seems so whimsical.
Yes, it's very whimsical.
Yeah. And this
oftentimes big fishy.
Yeah,
in a
absolutely.
way.
And this is the first time that, like, I was like, oh
can
my
I tell
God.
you, the end of this movie is my favorite thing. One of my favorite things about this movie. I think the ending when they're around the supper table where all the guys are talking about fishing stories and they're all kind of, being kind of raunchy with their stories. Yeah. And then you get Shepard's voiceover. And by the way, the voiceover kind of gets a little annoying. There's almost too much in this movie, but I'm glad it's there.
I think they let him do a lot.
I think
more.
they do a lot more with it than
Yeah.
the Christmas Story. But then he says something where it's almost like he's telling you that Ralph, this is the point in his life where he realizes he's not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
And it's the sweetest thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's almost
Yeah.
like really very touching, and cinematically it's also kind of just sweet and nice.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. Like, I like that. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is my hot take on this movie. I like this better than The Christmas Story. This is me.
Yeah.
I love this movie
honestly,
more than The Christmas Story. I've seen The Christmas Story so many times that it becomes to where I don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
Where I can't not stand watching it. And I used to love watching it.
Yeah.
I haven't watched A Christmas Story in, I'd say, 10 years.
Oh yeah.
All the way through. Because I've seen it so many times.
Yes.
And it's not that I hate that movie. It's just, it's too much for me.
Yeah.
This, I think, is better than The Christmas Story.
Okay, so
In my opinion.
Yeah,
I think it's
and-
better cast, better written. I just think we get too much of the narration.
yeah,
and- which makes it a
if you watch the first one, there's a shitload of
I
narration
know,
in that
but
one.
it's like, but you don't, it's so memorable and
Yeah.
so quick and fast that
Yeah.
you don't think about it. I think about it a little too much.
But this one,
This one.
but that I think in the Christmas Story, it's almost too controlled because it's not.
Agreed.
Even though it's Gene Shepard's words, it's not Gene Shepard's words because
I
Gene
feel,
Shepard
I feel
didn't
like
have as much
that's
input
more of
into
like
the script.
studio,
Yeah,
like saying, you know.
they refined what he was saying and he was just reading it.
I know, but I feel like this is more like off the cuff. I'm sitting on my
kind of-
porch.
Kind of is
telling
it
you the
sounds
story.
Like, it sounds more like just his like, you know, obviously it's not, but it
I'm
sounds more
whittling
like
a piece of wood telling
he
you.
probably had.
Yeah.
He probably had more input into this one.
Right.
But like, okay, so there's a few spots that hit me with that. It was like, again, the same one where he's like, you know, he goes fishing with his dad and his dad is taking care of him and stuff. And he brings him home and he's like, yeah, this is the moment. No more, no more orange knee high, no more this and this. And he talks about where he's a grown up and he's sitting around with the men around the table just laughing and carrying on. Then he says something and his mom grabs him and puts him to bed. He's like, 90 seconds later, I was in bed, you know? And it's kind of I knew I wasn't a kid anymore, but I'm still a kid.
But I'm still a kid.
It was still that kind of like,
It's those moments that you remember that you can't quite, you're a little confused about when you're a kid, but you understand that it's something different.
But the other thing that hits me in this movie is like, so the mother, it's weird. Like before, the mom seems just like she's kind of not
Ditzy.
doddering, but she's like the flighty housewife. Like, and that's all we really get of her is just there, and she's doting on.
We get more of the characters in this, including the
yeah.
dad too.
She's-
I just think of the dad in the first one as foul-mouthed and
Yeah.
like just angry.
Yes.
Like very angry. And this is Charles Grodin really playing it to, you know, a different depth to it.
Yeah.
And very funny, by the way. Like, this is a really underrated Charles Grodin performance. Is it his best performance? No, but it's really fun to watch. And you can see he's having fun with it too.
Yeah. Well, and he like
Whenever he
Before
gets,
the-
whenever it gets growly, whenever
Yeah.
it gets really super mad and like, I'm gonna destroy, like even in Clifford,
Yeah.
it's funny to me.
Yeah.
It's so over the top, but it's great. I love it.
when the mother in the first one seems flighty, and she's just really kind of like
Yeah.
where she dotes on Randy and everything.
Yeah,
In this one where she's like, look, I got this gravy boat because I'm going to go get us a whole new set of dishes. Like, she's very proud of that. And she goes, and when you start realizing that, like, it's grating on her that she's not getting, you know, these dishes she was promised. And when she finally throws the gravy boat at, like, the movie house, she starts, like, fighting back and she starts
Well,
whatever. And I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
And finally, when she's so proud that, like, everybody lost it, and you started, like, fighting back. And then
she throws
they
the
were like,
gravy
she
boat?
was the first one of us who landed in jail. And she was, but like Mary Beth
she's so
Steenburgen's
happy about
face
it.
where she's like, so like, I did it.
she's so happy. The guy that is offering them the china over and over
Yeah.
again is the
Otho.
guy from Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
and Heathers,
Yes.
which I love.
Yeah, Glenn Shaddix.
Yes, I love that guy. He's so weird and funny. But you're right about that, and I love that about that we get more of the parents. There is like this theme of disappointment where all the characters are somewhat at least disappointed in the outcome of what's going on.
Yes.
Like Ralphie with the tops, they go down the street drain, and they don't know who won.
Yeah.
And so he's like, life is just a tie. Yeah. No one wins anything. And you're like, yeah, you're kind of right about that.
But then, and Charles,
she's disappointed on the dishes.
Yes.
Charles Grodin is disappointed because he really wants to get these neighbors out of the neighborhood.
Yeah, he comes up with this grandiose plan,
right?
And as he enacts it, they're like, they moved like yesterday.
Moved. But they're kind of this disappointment, except at the end when Ralphie starts getting all the fish.
Yeah,
at the end, there is that, but it's that wonderful moment where you're like, even though they're disappointed, there are those moments where they're getting something out of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's real life to me. Well, you know what I mean? I thought this movie was going to be very like cartoonish.
Yeah.
In a way, like Dennis the Menace cartoonish.
Yes.
Like live action kind of like
Little
Rascals.
A lot of times sequels are just more like they just take loose framework and just build crap on it.
Like built like shit on it. I think
this one has like
I think it improved the characters.
Yes, because like I said with the mother, but also Charles Grodin's character. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just Dad. Like Dad has his moments where he's losing it, but he's also, he is like being a human and like dispensing the wisdom, and maybe that's between the Christmas and the other one. I don't think Gene Shepard wrote it. Like, I still think the studio kind of had a hand in Christmas.
I agreed.
But maybe as he's growing up, he's realizing more too. But like the dad says, Charles Grodin says, or Ralphie comes in, he's disappointed because he finally found a top that he is going to fight against the bullies
that he got at the fair.
Lug Ditka.
That his dad convinced a gypsy woman.
Yeah,
paid a gypsy woman to sell.
Yeah,
so that was sweet too.
Yeah,
like that moment.
Oh, yes, exactly. He basically Ralphie is looking for this perfect top, and he finds one that he thinks is perfect. He buys it. It doesn't help. He gets one from like an Asian market, and it has hand painted flowers on it. He never fights it because because Lug Ditka makes fun of him before he even does it. He just gives up. So he wants to find this top.
the Chinese top. But we don't know if it's got poison. I saw a knife come out.
I saw a knife. It was just real quick because they think that like it has secret knives that shoot out of it and stuff. Well, they go to this World Fair or the Expo to go see this, and his dad is like, go over there and find one. And so he goes, and some lady beckons him into this like tent. He goes in, this gypsy woman, and she's just like, you want a top? And she shows him one.
This top?
Yeah, $1, which is just what his dad gave him.
Yeah,
so
here's $1.
He pays it to her, and he's so mystified by everything because it's just so it's like magical.
It's magical to him, yeah.
And he finds it, he runs out, and then his dad comes from the back of the tent, and he pays her more money. But it's like that was his whole. He wanted him to have that experience.
Grodin plays that so great.
Yes.
Where it's like this sweet moment, and it's very like quick.
Yeah.
But it's like he plays it, and there's so much inner dialogue to it.
Yes, there is.
Where it's just like, I did that for my son because my son deserves that. And I'm like, ugh, he is a really good father. He just is very... he gets so angry about things, but he's a dad, Yeah. Did you call me a son of a bitch? The cop says no, and then drives by real quick and says, "Son of a bitch."
But he, the part where Ralphie has.
I'm glad you like this movie because I loved this movie.
He has the fight with Lug, who is the new bully. Because Scott Farkas got bumped down a peg for getting knocked out in the first one. So he they fight and no one wins, and he's just like, a stupid tie? What the hell? And so he like goes home and he's like, what does it matter? all, everything's a tie. That's as good as we're ever going to get in this world. Like, the kid is just so, like, bummed about it. And then he goes, there's worse things in life than a tie. And I was just like, oh, my God, Charles Grodin. And the way he delivers it, it's amazing. And through the fishing things and through whatever, like, it just, like, great performance by Charles Grodin.
No, like I said, it's an underrated performance. I think this is I think the cast gets improved.
Yeah.
From the first movie. I think that this is a better movie, and I think it's a movie that within time, and I think unfortunately with the death of Charles Grodin, I think more people are actually finding this movie. I've actually heard and read more about people watching this after he did die.
Yeah.
And I say good. I say kudos to it. I think this is a fine screenplay. I think it's a wonderful movie. It's obviously not like Oscar caliber,
right?
But I say this is a great family movie. You can watch this. I think you can watch this over and over again, like A Christmas Story, because there's so much going on to it that you can watch it. And I think this would, in time, should be a bigger cult classic than A Christmas Story.
I agree.
That's my opinion.
I think this story has more heart than the other one.
I like this story better.
I will say, I like Randy better in the first one than Randy in this one.
Having said that.
But Christian Culkin is clearly the sixth of the Culkins. Although he has some funny moments, like towards the end especially.
Look,
when he catches
the only thing he had to do was like, I want to fish. I want to do this. I want to do this. That's all he did.
Yeah, it was annoying.
Like, it was annoying.
But when he finally catches a goldfish out of the fish tank at the end, he goes, I want to eat it. And they're like, whoa, well, no, you can't eat this. And he goes, I want to eat it.
I know. And they were like,
I was like, they have that look on their face like, oh my God, what? Like, to me, I was like, that's funny. Why couldn't you have done more of that, kid?
That's finally the Culkin came out.
Yeah.
I want to eat the fish.
Yeah.
Okay, calm down. We'll do it.
Yeah.
But then they don't, and then Charles Grodin just throws it back in the tank.
But then they make him think he did, because they all play together to be like, okay, we're going to do it. And Kieran takes him out there. And I love, like, they look over at him later and he goes, I ate him. It's like all that Randy says. I'm like, wonderful.
Yeah, and then first it was going to be, is this too saccharine? Like, I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be like, is it too cartoony?
Yeah.
I didn't want that, because there are moments where it is a little cartoony with, like, the neighbors a little bit have that moment.
Yeah, it is.
And Grodin has that too a little bit with the fishing.
Yeah.
Has that where things speed up and slow down very quickly kind of thing. Kind of like those moments. But the first movie has that too as well.
I think, but here's the thing. I think that, so from a perspective of, like, in your own life, like, there are things I remember as a kid that honestly are probably cartoony. If I were to describe to you what was happening, because you're a kid.
I'm not going to say that,
right?
but, like, watching this is
right. But there's also things in your life where you can say, like, oh wow, like, this was a very tough thing, and, like, you can talk about things that you're like, yeah, I understood what was going on, because kids aren't dumb. They understand the gravity of some things. They just don't have the world knowledge to always describe everything. And I think this movie captures that. He said things, there were things that he is talking about that from his perspective, I'm like, well, that can't be right. But it's cartoony because he's a kid and that's how he remembered it. But he also...
this is sweeter than A Christmas Story.
Yes, but he also knows, he also remembers, it's just more like a person recounting their past. And the first movie is almost just like pure from the perspective of a child.
Yes,
and
who wants a BB gun.
This is somebody reminiscing about their memories as a child with the color of them as adults as well.
I think you have, because in The Christmas Story you have those moments. Everyone remembers the kid who puts his tongue on the pole, or the drink more Ovaltine.
Yes.
You're going to shoot your eye out, like all that. And they do talk about that a little at the beginning of this, but it's, I don't know, there's just something about this movie that is more cemented, and I think more that when you're watching it, that you can, there's more to grab onto in this movie that you can relate to a lot more than just the Christmas Story parts of it.
Can I tell you, like, I can tell you the moment that I was just like, I think I like this movie more, was there is a scene where they're going down the street, because it's 1940, I think it is. 40 or 41.
Yeah, it's 1940. Well, it's 41 because December of 40 was A Christmas Story.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is the summer of 41. And they're talking about they're driving down the street, and they on the way to the expo, and they pass by one of their neighbors' houses. And
yeah. I gotcha. Forgot about that scene.
And it's like, I was just like, oh my God, it was like a gut punch.
Well, because it is real life. It's what happens. You see that all the time. There's like this estate sale going on.
Yeah.
This auction.
Yeah.
Because, go ahead.
Yeah. And so like there's a house, the family, they're like, I think it was after the assessor came over, they couldn't pay. And so they were auctioning off the house, basically. And so you see the family on the porch, and people were bidding on stuff. They were like, Grandpa's so-and-so's helmet, World War I helmet, or Great War helmet, got sold for 50 cents, and like all their stuff, watching it getting auctioned off.
None of the neighbors.
And he said none of the neighbors came. We went there and we watched, but like it's people from other neighborhoods who came and like bought these things. And the mom's like, I hope she finds Junior. And he's like, I knew where Junior was. He was in the attic. And like you kind of pan up and you see like the son up in the window crying. And he's just like,
yeah, that shit wouldn't be in The Christmas Story.
Yeah, no. He goes. They told us that they were going to go visit family for a little bit. They went, and then, in the following month, for rent signs went up, and we never saw Junior or his family again. And like I was just like, oh my God. But it was like he was talking about this thing about like it was this tragedy that the neighborhood was experiencing, and how he kind of described that. And I was like, oh my God. Like, yeah, they were very careful to like sterilize any of that stuff out of A Christmas Story. It was all just like,
because A Christmas Story that's the Hallmark card.
Yeah.
Of excuse me, I'm sorry, of movies. I did not mean that. Sorry, excuse me. Whoa.
Okay.
And then you got this movie where it's almost like, kind of set into that reality. I think that you have, and the movie I'm about ready to tell you is not part of this, but it could be. If you had like a triple feature, it could be you have A Christmas Story, and this movie is kind of like the middle bridge between A Christmas Story and, say, Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Where you have that coming of age where you're not quite an adult, but you're not a kid. And this is kind of like that bridge that you get between there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a perfect kind of way to describing that, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think we need to do our 5 questions.
Yeah.
Because we are to the point where I keep burping and I don't mean to.
Delicious.
Is not delicious.
Okay, what did you think was the best part of the movie?
There's a lot that I like about this movie. Like I was saying before, the casting's good. This is the casting director of E.T. I looked it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who's done a lot of casting. I love the gravy boat scene. I love her like throwing the gravy boat, and I actually think Kieran Culkin is for his age, is doing a really good job as Ralphie. And Grodin's amazing, but the ending scene in the script is really, really, really good. Even though I'm saying that the voiceover kind of gets a little annoying, because it's almost like it's using it as a crutch. I have to say that the script and the voiceover is probably the best part of the movie, besides Grodin as well.
Yeah.
But I want to say the script.
Yeah.
Best part of the movie.
Okay.
Go for you.
I would say, honestly, I kind of think the same too, because I think I'm just using the basis of the first movie, comparing it. I mean, the first one it's classic at this point. Like, everybody knows it,
right?
You know, it's
That's
one of
what
those
I mean.
things
And I'm like,
it's become woven into the fabric of everything.
with a movie that, like, because that movie became a cult favorite, right?
Yeah.
To the point where I think it's no longer a cult classic. It's almost a classic.
Yes.
In itself, and not really a cult classic.
Yeah.
Because everyone, I think, knows it.
Oh yeah.
You know?
No, when
I think
I go
you
to
get things like that.
when I go to Raising Cane's and they have like
Yes.
Christmas story stuff every year, it's like, I think you're pretty mainstream now.
Yes.
But-
Yeah, I had to go to Popeyes and get my summer story.
Yeah.
And they had tops. They were giving away
No, this one, like,
with biscuits.
I think like this script has so much more heart than the first one. And I don't know the reason that they're so different. Like, I know listening to Gene Shepard.
Gene Smart would have been great in this movie.
Gene Shepard talk through his like how he normally does
Processes,
storytelling. This sounds more like his storytelling. And so my only assumption is that the studio screwed with the first one. Not to the point where it's like not enjoyable.
No.
But I'm like, God, could you imagine like what else
But
could
I
have
feel
been in
like
that first one?
what could have been
Yeah.
something. Yeah, I just feel like
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I think that I really enjoy the script in this movie. Do you think that this movie stands on its own?
They do talk, like I was saying, that they talk about after that Christmas that I got the Red
Yeah.
Ryder BB gun. It's almost like that almost felt like it was just tacked on for purposes to connect
Yeah.
that movie. Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, I do too. They
I
make
think you can watch this without the first movie.
They make mention to a few things like the Red Ryder BB gun, Scott Farkas and stuff like that.
But that's not necessarily plot driven.
No, but
for
he
this
even,
particular movie.
he even has, he still has Flick and Schwartz, but they don't tie them back to the first one. So like they
Not
make
really.
mentions of things that are in the first one, but they don't tell it in such a way that it's like you have to know what's going on in the first one. You think that he's talking about a BB gun.
Yeah.
Great, kid has a BB gun. That's
Great,
not a
he
shock.
got one when
you know?
he was for Christmas, I guess. That's
Yeah.
what they said at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And so, I think this definitely can stand on its own. I think it's enhanced if you know stuff from the first one.
I think it's better enhanced if you know the first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Which everyone pretty much does.
Yeah.
It's hard not to get away from this movie. I mean, the first movie.
Oh, by the way, Chris Owen, the kid who played the Shermanator in American Pie 2,
Sure.
was Scott Farkas in this one.
Yes.
Which I was like, oh my God, I know that little kid. But he's
The geeky
very
kid
young.
and everything in the 90s.
But I'm like, if somebody else had to be Scott Farkas, I'm glad it was that kid because he looks so much like him.
He was big on teen movies, right? Like,
Yeah.
really like geeks and teen movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like She's All That and the American Pie movies.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this movie does stand on its own.
I think so too.
I think it can, but like you said.
Does this make you want to watch the first one?
Yeah, I mean, again, I've seen that first one so many times.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go rush out and watch the first one
Yeah.
because of this. Also, I'm not going to do that in the middle of summer.
Right.
You get that. You want to watch that during Christmas. That's a movie that you want to watch. I think this is a good double feature.
Yeah.
I think you can watch the first one. I think it's great. But yeah, it makes me want to watch the first one. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it also makes me want to go and go, why didn't we get more? Like, why didn't we have a show? Why wasn't Shepherd's Pie more popular? Do you know what I mean? Shepherd's Pie?
Yeah.
Why wasn't that more popular? Why
Right.
wasn't there?
Well, it was like a local show. That's what I think.
But what I'm saying is, how come nowadays you could have had that more on a streaming service, and at least had something.
I think we kind of had.
I don't know. Maybe
I think about
these
Prairie Home
things-
Companion we had for a while.
Yeah, these things don't play on like
Yeah, and
like
live from there.
streaming. Yeah.
Yeah.
These are more NPR kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and you get individual stories, but usually it's not like one person telling a bunch of stuff. But you kind of do too. Think about like the Wonder Years. Think about
Right. This movie would not, like, the Wonder Years wouldn't, be what it was if it wasn't for this movie.
Grownish kind of did that too. That was kind of the approach to that. Like,
And it's more rooted
you kind of get
Cosby and
those kind of stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one it does make me want to watch the first one, but I actually kind of want to watch those PBS.
Actually, I do too.
To
tell you the truth, I want to watch this movie again. Mm-hmm. I'd watch this movie before I'd watch A Christmas Story. If that tells you anything.
And I would never watch A Christmas Story 2.
You would watch A Christmas Story 2?
No, I would not. I would never watch A Christmas Story 2.
No, 2, like the number 2 or T?
The number 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I would watch the original Christmas Story. A Christmas Story.
Before you would watch this movie?
No.
Now you got me confused.
Yeah, I can tell. I would watch A Christmas Story and this one, and I'd watch all the other.
You're answering the question. I forgot we were doing that.
Yeah,
yes.
right. And all the other Gene Shepherd ones. But I would never watch A Christmas Story 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen A Christmas Story 2.
I think we kind of answered our reboot.
Yeah.
Cancel then, didn't we? Kind of.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I don't think...
I mean, you really can't. I mean, with him, but you can... Because did he die? Isn't he dead?
Yeah, he died in 1999.
Yeah.
And that's why when they were like, we're going to do A Christmas Story 2 in 2012.
Yeah, screw you.
It was the only one that he was not involved with, and it was not based off his story.
It probably shows.
It was based off the script of the first movie.
There are certain people that have the flair for that, right?
Yeah.
And he was one of those people that has the flair to tell that in a way.
Yeah.
And to try to do that without him or try to copy that in a way seems benign and seems stupid and seems like that's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. And
having said that, then take his stories and make a show out of it. And then you could have, and you not redo A Christmas Story, but one of them could be at Christmas time.
Yeah.
And you could have those moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it was actually like, and Daniel Stern, which I find this weird. Daniel Stern plays the dad in the new one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you did a guy who's classically known for doing like a voiceover thing for the Wonder Years, and then you get him in this thing.
Or you have someone that could probably do it right more kind of on the lines of that. Dan Futterman could be a good example for that, who writes for This Is Us, who created that and has that kind of like, flair for tearing up people in a way, or having that sentimental but not too sentimental kind of thing. I don't know. Have him, write it or produce it. I don't care. But we need more of these stories. Because especially in a time like this.
Yeah. You know what I would almost rather see is like a show that was about, like, pick a theme, right? Like, whether it's about, the hard things you've learned in life or whatever, but like each show maybe have a different theme to it.
Okay.
And then make like 3 short stories in each one that maybe it's like a celebrity is like, hey, here's when I learned this. Here's how I learned this tough lesson, or whatever it was. Or like, politicians, athletes,
and they're the narrator,
whatever it is. Basically saying what they're, how they learned something, and then it's 20-minute segments, like telling those stories or whatever it is. But like,
so it's like drunk history, but like Kool-Aid history or juice history for kids. No, okay, go ahead.
I guess it was. But no, it's something more like that. Something that has that heart in it. I mean, half the celebrities now just got jobs through nepotism. So it's like, it's like maybe athletes or something like that too. But like, you know what I mean? Like trying to get heart through some other means and people to share those stories instead of relying on one.
I don't think you need to have like someone that can make you cry every episode. I think you just need that like warm fuzziness and but not too saccharine.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it could be a different theme. So, one of them could be people who tell like funny things, and one could be one where it was about loss, or one could be But, like, have different stories from different people, different perspectives, them telling their stories.
And they're the narrator?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you get the, different themes. So, like, it's not always going to be upbeat or always
that,
downbeat.
And it doesn't always have to be a white story.
Correct.
Or you get, like,
Yeah.
other celebrities, Regina King stories.
Oh my God.
Or
if
Asian
Regina
stories.
King just wants to tell stories, fuck my whole concept.
I'll just listen to her.
Yeah, I'll just listen to Regina King talk all the time.
I'm just thinking John Cho or other people,
Yeah.
like Asian. So you don't necessarily just get like
right.
like a white family. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Yeah, that'd be nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's a little off topic. There we
No,
go.
I don't think it is. No, and I don't. I'm kind of stalling because I forgot our two words. So it's fine. Go ahead.
What would you sum up your experience in 2 words?
Oh, Jesus. Do I have to?
I mean, you could. It's part of the
Sweet silliness. I don't know. This is a movie that is silly but sweet and kind, but also has a little bit of, adults turning into adulthood moments.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time putting 2 words to something that a guy wrote 100 billion words and put it in his voice. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's really hard to do, and I think that's a discredit. I can't do 2 words to this thing.
Yeah.
That's a discredit to this movie. I think that this movie surprised me in ways that I didn't understand. So, a summer surprise. Are my 2 words.
Summer surprise?
Summer surprise.
Okay, I thought you said summer surprise.
No, summer surprise. And doesn't really count as a word.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, like A Christmas Story is 2 words.
Yeah. I think growing up. And
does growing up have a hyphen? Is that 1 word?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't know.
I mean, it might, but whatever. Growing up is my 2. And I think that it's like
sweet
I'm
initiation.
choosing that because I mean that's part of the central theme
like
of
sweet initiation,
or
like
that's part of
manhood.
the central theme of the thing is like that growing up, but also like I think that this movie, like if you like the first movie, like that can be accessible from everybody, from being a kid to being a grown up, and then you see this movie. I think this movie, it takes you a little bit further. Like the other one's accessible to everybody, and I think this one has some themes in it too, where it's like, like seeing his dad do these things, or like what mom is experiencing, and seeing what like how they feel about that family who's lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of pushes you to the next level with that. Like now you have these different feelings with it. I think that this script is more grown up than the first one is. And I think it has that kind of development that is good to see from like one film to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Where, just because the first movie had something that worked doesn't mean that you don't have to try to make the next one, better. Otherwise you're just rehashing the same crap over and over. And I think this one...
I don't... Like, this movie could have been ruined by doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like A Christmas Story 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Agreed. Right, well, I say watch this movie.
I do too.
Go ahead, and you can watch that on Tubi, the 2003 It Runs in the Family.
No, don't confuse people.
We're not doing that?
No.
Oh, sorry. We found it on YouTube. You can watch just YouTube It Runs in the Family 1994 or My Summer Story, and you can watch it there. Where can people listen to us and find us, Jeremy?
People can find us on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much any of those podcatchers. Mm-hmm. You can find us on Facebook.
Can they find us on Podcatcher?
I don't know.
Cast Potter?
Pod Potter?
Pod Potter? The Pod Potter? Pod Knife?
The Pied Potter?
The Pied Potter?
Right then. Okay.
$1 million idea.
You can find us on Facebook. You can also find us on Twitter at Deuce Podcast. And then, of course, you can find us at nophonynetwork.com, which is our podcast network that we're part of. All sorts of great shows on there. If you're going in there to check us out, check everyone else out too. They got a little of everything, whether it's from sports to politics to reading to like literature podcasts to just comedy.
They recently did a Shakespeare thing, right?
Yeah.
Brooks reading.
Yeah, Brook Reading Podcast has done some. They went through and did some reading of some different Shakespeare and Shakespearean plays and like put their thoughts to that. So all sorts of great stuff. Please definitely go check that out.
Do that.
But of course you can find us there.
All right, folks. And remember, the sequel is king.